Dr. Nora Brennan had been a veterinarian for 8 years, running her small clinic in Coronado, California, and she'd seen just about every kind of pet owner imaginable. The nervous first-timers clutching their new puppies, the elderly regulars who treated their cats like grandchildren, the working families juggling appointments between soccer practice and piano lessons. She loved them all, the animals and the people who cared for them. Her clinic, Paws and Claws Veterinary Care, occupied a modest building 2 blocks from the beach, with large windows that let in the California sunshine and walls painted in calming shades of blue and green. It wasn't fancy. The waiting room chairs were second-hand, the magazines were dog-eared, and the linoleum floor showed years of wear. But it was clean, welcoming, and most importantly, it was hers. On this particular Tuesday morning, the waiting room held its usual collection of patients. Mrs. Rodriguez with her arthritic Labrador, the Chen family with their rabbit in a carrier, and a quiet man in his mid-30s sitting in the corner with what appeared to be a Belgian Malinois wearing a service dog vest. The man had the kind of bearing that suggested military background, short hair, excellent posture, and an alertness that seemed at odds with his relaxed demeanor. Nora's own dog, a 3-year-old golden retriever named Wyatt, lay behind the reception desk where her assistant Zoe was checking in patients. Wyatt was technically Nora's personal pet, but he'd become the clinic's unofficial therapy dog, gentle with nervous animals, patient with children, and possessing an almost supernatural ability to sense when someone needed comfort. "Dr. Brennan," Zoe called through the intercom, "Mr. Patterson's here with Bruno for his follow-up." "Send them back," Nora replied, washing her hands and reviewing the chart. Bruno was a German shepherd who'd had a growth removed from his paw 2 weeks ago, should be healing nicely. The morning proceeded smoothly. Bruno's paw looked excellent. The Chen's rabbit just needed nail trimming. Mrs. Rodriguez's Labrador got a pain medication adjustment and a gentle scratch behind the ears. It was routine, peaceful, exactly the kind of day Nora appreciated. That peace shattered at 10:15 when Scarlett Hastings walked through the door. Nora didn't know her name yet, but the young woman's entrance was impossible to ignore. Early 20s, wearing what Nora recognized as a Gucci sundress that probably cost more than most people's monthly rent, carrying a Louis Vuitton bag and holding a leash attached to a small, trembling Pomeranian. Oversized sunglasses hid her eyes, and her entire demeanor radiated the kind of confidence that came from never being told no. "I need to see the vet immediately," Scarlett announced to Zoe, not as a request, but as a statement of fact. Zoe looked up from her computer with her professional smile. "Of course. Do you have an appointment?" "I don't need an appointment," Scarlett said, her tone suggesting the question itself was offensive. "My dog needs to be seen now." "I understand, but we have several patients ahead of you who've been waiting." "Do you know who I am?" Scarlett interrupted, pulling off her sunglasses to reveal perfectly made-up eyes that held zero warmth. "My father is Richard Hastings. Hastings Development? We own half the commercial real estate in this city, including probably the building you're standing in." Zoe's smile didn't waver, though Nora, watching through the partially open door, saw her assistant's jaw tighten slightly. "I'm sure that's true. But we see patients in the order they arrive, unless there's a life-threatening emergency." "Is your dog experiencing an emergency?" Scarlett looked down at her Pomeranian, who seemed perfectly healthy, aside from being anxious about its owner's aggressive energy. "She's been scratching. That's an emergency to me." "We can absolutely see her," Zoe said patiently. "There are 3 patients ahead of you, so it should be about 45 minutes. I'll need you to fill out these new patient forms." 45 minutes? Scarlett's voice rose. "Are you seriously telling me I have to wait 45 minutes in this dump of a clinic? Do you have any idea how much my time is worth?" The waiting room had gone silent. Mrs. Rodriguez stared at her hands. The Chen family looked uncomfortable. The military-looking man in the corner had shifted slightly, his attention now focused on the scene unfolding at the reception desk. "I apologize for the wait," Zoe said, maintaining her professionalism despite the insult, "but all our patients deserve equal care and attention." "Equal care?" Scarlett laughed, a harsh sound without humor. "You're comparing my purebred championship-line Pomeranian to that mutt?" She gestured dismissively at Mrs. Rodriguez's elderly Labrador. "I spend more on Princess's grooming in a month than she probably paid for that thing." Mrs. Rodriguez's face flushed, but she said nothing, intimidated by the young woman's obvious wealth and aggressive confidence. Nora had heard enough. She stepped out of the exam room, still wearing her white coat with Dr. Nora Brennan, DVM, embroidered on the pocket. "Is there a problem?" Scarlett turned her attention to Nora, looking her up and down with barely concealed disdain. "Are you the vet?" "I'm Dr. Brennan, yes, this is my clinic." "Well, Dr. Brennan," Scarlett said, investing the title with sarcasm, "your receptionist seems to think I should wait 45 minutes when my dog clearly needs immediate attention. I'm trying to explain to her that some clients are more important than others." Nora felt her professional smile tighten, but kept her voice level. "Every patient in this clinic is equally important to me. If your dog is experiencing a genuine medical emergency, I'll see her immediately. Otherwise, I'll be happy to help you once I've finished with the patients who arrived before you." "A genuine emergency?" Scarlett's voice dripped with contempt. "My dog is uncomfortable. That's all the emergency I need. What do you want, a signed doctor's note?" "What I want," Nora said carefully, "is to provide quality care to all my patients. That means not rushing examinations or cutting corners. If you'd like to make an appointment for later today or tomorrow when we have more availability—" "Tomorrow?" Scarlett's laugh was sharp. "You clearly don't understand how this works. My family donates 6 figures annually to the San Diego Humane Society. We're personal friends with the mayor. One phone call, and I could have this entire building condemned for violations I'm sure exist in a place this shabby." The threat hung in the air. Nora felt anger rising but pushed it down, maintaining her composure. "Threatening me doesn't change the fact that I have patients waiting who made appointments. You're welcome to stay and wait your turn, or you can take your business elsewhere." "Take my business elsewhere?" Scarlett's face flushed with genuine outrage. "Do you have any idea how much money you're turning away? I spend more on vet bills in a year than you probably make." "Then I'm sure you can afford one of the luxury veterinary services in La Jolla," Nora replied evenly. "They cater specifically to clients who feel they deserve special treatment." "Wrong thing to say." Scarlett's expression transformed from outrage to truly ugly. "Special treatment? You think I'm asking for special treatment? I'm asking for basic competence from someone who works in what amounts to a welfare clinic for people too poor to afford real veterinary care." Wyatt had emerged from behind the desk, sensing tension the way he always did. The golden retriever approached slowly, his tail wagging in that universal gesture of canine diplomacy, attempting to diffuse the situation the only way he knew how, with gentle, non-threatening presence. "Is that your dog?" Scarlett asked, noticing Wyatt. "Yes, that's Wyatt. He's friendly. He's just—" "Get him away from me," Scarlett snapped. "I don't want some clinic dog getting his germs on Princess." Wyatt, interpreting the attention as permission, moved closer, his tail still wagging, trying to offer comfort. "Wyatt, come," Nora said. But before the dog could respond, Scarlett lashed out. The kick wasn't full force, more of a shove with her designer sandal, but it connected with Wyatt's ribcage, hard enough to make the dog yelp and stumble sideways. The sound was sharp, pained, and completely unexpected. The waiting room erupted. Mrs. Rodriguez gasped. Zoe stood up so fast, her chair rolled backward. The Chen's daughter started crying, and Nora felt something inside her chest go cold and hard. "Did you just kick my dog?" Nora's voice was dangerously quiet. "It was in my space," Scarlett said, not even having the grace to look apologetic. "I told you to keep it away from me." Wyatt had retreated behind Nora's legs, whimpering softly, more confused and hurt than injured. Nora's hands were shaking, with anger, with shock, with the overwhelming urge to throw this entitled brat out of her clinic with physical force. "You need to leave," Nora said, each word precise and controlled. "Right now. I'm not going anywhere until you assaulted my dog in my clinic. Leave, or I'm calling the police." Scarlett's eyes narrowed. "Call them. I'd love to explain to the officers how your aggressive animal attacked me, forcing me to defend myself. My lawyer would have this place shut down by Friday." No one in the waiting room moved. They were all watching, shocked, but intimidated by Scarlett's wealth, her confidence, her obvious connections. In that moment, Nora understood what it felt like to be powerless against someone who believed money made them untouchable. Then the man in the corner stood up. Carter Mitchell had been sitting quietly with his service dog, a Belgian Malinois named Julian, waiting for his appointment while mentally reviewing the physical therapy exercises his doctor had recommended for his reconstructed shoulder. He'd been a Navy SEAL for 12 years before an IED in Afghanistan had ended his active duty career. Julian had been his partner for the last 18 months of that service and had transitioned with him to civilian life as a certified PTSD service dog. Carter didn't look for confrontations anymore. He'd seen enough violence, participated in enough operations to last several lifetimes. These days, he valued peace, quiet, and the simple routine of vet visits and therapy sessions. But watching a spoiled brat kick a friendly dog crossed a line he couldn't ignore. "Excuse me," Carter said, his voice not particularly loud but carrying an authority that made everyone in the room turn to look at him. Scarlett glanced at him dismissively. "This doesn't concern you." "Actually, it does," Carter said, moving forward slowly, Julian walking calmly at his side. He was careful to keep his body language non-threatening, hands visible, posture relaxed. But there was something in his bearing that commanded attention. "See, I'm a witness to what just happened. You assaulted an animal. That's a crime in California, specifically Penal Code 597. Scarlett's expression flickered with uncertainty for the first time. "I didn't assault anything. That dog came at me. That dog approached in a friendly manner, tail wagging, showing no signs of aggression whatsoever," Carter continued, his voice remaining calm but firm. "You kicked him hard enough to cause pain and injury. I saw it. So did everyone else in this room. And who are you exactly?" Scarlett tried to reclaim her confidence. "Some random guy who thinks he's a hero?" "Carter Mitchell, former Navy SEAL, currently working as a consultant for Department of Defense K-9 programs." Oh, he let that sink in for a moment. "I've spent my entire adult life working with military working dogs, training them, deploying with them, learning to read their behavior and intentions. I can testify as an expert witness that the dog you kicked posed zero threat and that your action constituted unprovoked animal cruelty." The color was draining from Scarlett's face now. "You can't prove—" "This clinic has security cameras," Carter said, nodding toward the small camera mounted in the corner that Nora had installed after a break-in 2 years ago. "That's video evidence. Combined with multiple eyewitnesses and my expert testimony, that's a solid case for the district attorney's office. Add in your verbal threats against Dr. Brennan, your discriminatory comments about other clients, and your attempt to leverage your family's wealth to receive preferential treatment, and you're looking at a very ugly public record." Scarlett opened her mouth, closed it, then tried again. Your father's wealth doesn't matter in a criminal case," Carter interrupted gently. "And if you're thinking about using his connections to make this go away, consider this. I have connections too. The kind that come from serving alongside people who went on to become federal judges, state prosecutors, and yes, even some folks in the mayor's office. The military community in San Diego is tight-knit. We look out for each other, and we definitely look out for people who've dedicated their lives to helping animals. He paused, letting her absorb that information, then continued in the same calm, reasonable tone. Now, you have a choice to make. You can leave right now, quietly, and take your business elsewhere, or you can push this further, and I promise you, the consequences will follow you a lot longer than you think. Social media loves stories about entitled rich kids abusing animals. That kind of reputation sticks. The waiting room was absolutely silent. Even Scarlett's Pomeranian had stopped whimpering. Nora stood frozen, one hand on Wyatt's head, watching this unfold with a mixture of shock and gratitude. Scarlett looked around the room, seeing for the first time what Carter had seen from the moment she'd walked in. Not potential allies or intimidated witnesses, but people who were disgusted by her behavior. Mrs. Rodriguez was recording on her phone. How long had she been doing that? The Chen family's father had his phone out too. "This is ridiculous," Scarlett said. But the venom had gone out of her voice, replaced by something that sounded almost like fear. "You're all overreacting to you kicking a dog?" Carter said. "No, I don't think we are. I think we're reacting appropriately to someone who believes their money gives them the right to mistreat others, human or animal." Scarlett's face had gone from angry to pale. She grabbed her Pomeranian's leash. "Fine, I'll take Princess somewhere that actually appreciates paying customers." "Good idea," Carter said. "And Miss Hastings, one more thing." She paused at the door, turning back reluctantly. "An apology would go a long way right now, to Dr. Brennan, to her dog, and to everyone in this room you insulted." "I'm not apologizing for—" "Then you're making a mistake," Carter said simply, "because right now you have the opportunity to show you're capable of recognizing when you're wrong, that you're more than just your father's money and your sense of entitlement. Walk out of here without apologizing, and you're confirming everything people will say about you when these videos go viral." The word viral hit like a physical blow. Scarlett glanced at the phone still recording, seemed to do some internal calculation, and then, grudgingly, barely audible, muttered, "Sorry." "To everyone," Carter prompted, "and like you mean it." Scarlett's jaw clenched. For a moment it seemed like she might refuse. Then she took a breath and said louder, "I apologize to Dr. Brennan and to everyone. I was out of line. It wasn't sincere. It was damage control, self-preservation, but it was something." "Thank you," Carter said. "Now please leave." Scarlett left, the door closing behind her with enough force to make the bell jingle aggressively. The tension in the room broke like a wave, everyone exhaling at once. Nora knelt beside Wyatt, running her hands gently over his ribs where Scarlett's kick had landed. The dog's tail was wagging again, already forgiving, already ready to move on the way dogs do. She felt tears prickling her eyes and blinked them back furiously. "Thank you," she said, looking up at Carter. "You didn't have to do that." "Yeah, I did," Carter replied, returning to his seat with Julian. "Nobody gets to treat people or animals like that, not while I'm watching." Mrs. Rodriguez was already on her feet, coming over to Nora. "Mika, are you okay? Is Wyatt hurt?" "He's okay," Nora said, her voice not quite steady. "Just shaken up." "I got video of the whole thing," Mrs. Rodriguez said, holding up her phone. "From when she started yelling. If you need it for police or anything." "I got it too," Mr. Chen added. "My daughter was getting scared, so I started recording in case we needed evidence." Zoe had come around from behind the desk, her professional composure cracking. "Nora, I'm so sorry. I should have—" "You did everything right," Nora interrupted, standing up and putting a hand on her assistant's shoulder. You were professional and patient even when she was being horrible. That's all anyone can do. But inside, Nora was shaking. Not just from anger, though there was plenty of that, but from the helpless feeling of watching someone weaponize their wealth and privilege, knowing that without Carter's intervention, Scarlett might have made good on her threats. How many times had people like that gotten away with behavior like this simply because others were too intimidated to fight back? Dr. Brennan? Carter's voice was gentle. I'm scheduled for Julian's checkup, but if you need some time... No, Nora said, taking a deep breath and forcing herself back into professional mode. No, let's continue with the appointments. Julian's waited long enough. She led Carter and his dog into the exam room, grateful for the relative privacy. Her hands were still trembling as she pulled up Julian's chart on the computer. You're shaking, Carter observed. I'm fine, Nora said automatically, then stopped herself. No, actually, I'm not fine. I'm furious and humiliated and scared about what someone with her kind of money and connections could do to my clinic. She won't do anything, Carter said with certainty. How can you be sure? Because people like her are bullies, and bullies fold when someone stands up to them. Carter helped Julian onto the examination table with practiced ease. She'll go home, rage to her father about being attacked at some horrible vet clinic, and he'll either tell her she's overreacting or he'll make some calls and find out that pressing charges against you would open her up to animal cruelty charges. Either way, it dies there. Nora ran her hands over Julian's coat, checking his body condition, her training taking over even as her mind raced. You really think those videos could go viral? Do I think they should? Absolutely. That kind of behavior needs consequences. Carter paused. But honestly, it's up to you. You're the one who'd have to deal with the fallout, positive and negative. Internet fame isn't always comfortable. Nora considered that while she checked Julian's ears, clean, healthy, and his teeth, excellent condition for a working dog. Why did you step in, really? Carter was quiet for a moment. I spent 12 years in the military. Saw a lot of injustice, the kind that happens in war, the kind that's unavoidable. But this was just casual cruelty from someone who's never been told no. That kind of thing makes me angrier than enemy combatants because it's preventable. It's a choice. You said you work with military dogs now. Consulting mostly. Training programs, handler selection, that kind of thing. Julian here was my partner on my last deployment before I got injured. Carter's hand rested on the Malinois's head with obvious affection. He saved my life twice. Once from an insurgent ambush, once from myself after I got stateside and the PTSD hit hard. Nora listened carefully to Julian's heart and lungs. Both perfect. This was a well-maintained working dog, clearly beloved by his handler. Service dogs are incredible. The bond you two have, I can see it. He's my family, Carter said simply. Same way Wyatt's yours. That's why what she did. You don't attack someone's family and walk away clean. Nora completed the examination. Julian was in excellent health. Everything looked perfect, and updated his records. All clear. He's a beautiful dog, Carter. You're taking great care of him. Learned from the best handlers in the military, Carter said, helping Julian down from the table. But I'll admit, I research every vet carefully before I bring him in. Your reviews online are exceptional. People say you really care about your patients. I do, Nora said. This clinic, it's not fancy. I can't afford the newest equipment or luxury waiting rooms, but every animal that comes through that door matters to me. Rich, poor, purebred, rescue, doesn't matter. They all deserve the best care I can give. That's obvious, Carter said, and for what it's worth, the people in that waiting room, they saw what you stood up for. They saw you refused to be bullied. That matters. The rest of the day proceeded more smoothly, though Nora noticed a different energy in the clinic. Her remaining patients seemed more respectful, more appreciative. Word had apparently spread quickly through the small waiting room about what had happened, and several people went out of their way to thank her for maintaining her principles. That evening, after closing, Nora sat in her small office with a glass of wine, Wyatt's head resting on her lap. Zoe had stayed late to help with end-of-day tasks. "So," Zoe said, leaning against the doorframe, "Mrs. Rodriguez posted the video on Facebook." Nora groaned. "Oh no. Oh yes, it's already got 2,000 shares. The comments are, well, they're not kind to Scarlett Hastings." Nora pulled up Facebook on her phone and found the video easily. The caption read, "This is what happens when entitled rich kids think money means they can abuse animals and hard-working professionals. Dr. Nora Brennan at Paws and Claws Vet is a hero, and the Navy SEAL who stood up to this bully restored my faith in humanity." The video had captured everything: Scarlett's insults, the kick, Carter's intervention. The comments were overwhelmingly supportive of Nora, with many locals saying they'd be switching to her clinic, and several calling for animal cruelty charges against Scarlett. "There's more," Zoe said. "Someone identified Scarlett. Turns out she's had multiple public incidents, being banned from restaurants for yelling at staff, getting kicked out of boutiques for mistreating employees. There's a whole Twitter thread about her greatest hits of terrible behavior." Nora felt a complicated mix of emotions. Relief that she wasn't alone, that others had experienced Scarlett's cruelty. But also something like pity for a young woman who'd apparently never learned that actions have consequences. Her phone rang. An unknown number. She almost didn't answer, but something made her pick up. "Dr. Brennan, this is Richard Hastings, Scarlett's father." Nora's heart sank. "Mr. Hastings, I'm calling to apologize for my daughter's behavior today." His voice was tired, embarrassed. "I just watched the video that's circulating. I had no idea she'd become... I'm sorry. For what she said to you, for what she did to your dog, all of it." "I appreciate that," Nora said carefully. "Scarlett will not be bothering you again. She's currently on her way to a therapist who specializes in entitlement issues and behavioral problems. It's something I should have arranged years ago." He paused. "I've sent her away to her aunt's place in Colorado for the next few months. Some distance from her usual environment might help." "Mr. Hastings, I don't want to ruin your daughter's life." "You're not ruining anything," he interrupted gently. "She did that herself. But maybe this is what she needed. Actual consequences for once. I've been enabling her behavior for too long, thinking money could solve everything. Clearly I was wrong." After he hung up, Nora sat in silence, processing. Wyatt nudged her hand with his nose, and she scratched behind his ears automatically. "You know what the weirdest part is?" she said to Zoe. "I don't feel triumphant. I just feel sad. Sad that it took public humiliation for her to face consequences. Sad that she had to learn the hard way that you can't treat people like that." "Maybe she won't learn," Zoe said. "Some people never do." "Maybe," Nora agreed, "but maybe she will. That's all we can hope for." 2 weeks later, Nora received a letter. Expensive stationery, careful handwriting. "Dr. Brennan, this is Scarlett. My therapist said I needed to write this, but I want you to know I chose to actually send it. What I did was inexcusable. I kicked your dog. I insulted you and your patients. I acted like my family's money made me better than everyone else. It doesn't. I know that now, or I'm starting to. I've been in therapy every day since that happened, and I'm beginning to understand how toxic my behavior has been. Not just that day, but for years. I've hurt people, treated them like they were worthless, all because I could get away with it. I can't undo what I did. I can't take back the things I said. But I can promise I'm working to be better. Not because of the video or the public embarrassment, but because I saw myself through everyone's eyes that day, and I hated what I saw. I don't expect forgiveness. I just wanted you to know I'm sorry. Genuinely, completely sorry." Scarlet Nora read the letter twice, then showed it to Carter when he came in for Julian's follow-up appointment a few days later. "What do you think?" she asked. "Is it real?" Carter read it carefully. "Hard to say. Could be genuine remorse. Could be excellent damage control coached by lawyers and therapists. Does it matter?" "I guess not," Nora said. "Either she means it and she's changing, or she doesn't and she'll keep being the same person. Either way, it's not my responsibility to fix her." "No," Carter agreed. "Your responsibility is to keep being exactly who you are, someone who treats every patient with care and dignity, regardless of their owner's bank account." "You know," Nora said, smiling slightly, "you've become one of my favorite clients, Carter Mitchell." "Yeah? Why's that?" "Because you reminded me that standing up for what's right isn't always easy, but it's always worth it. And because you proved that real strength isn't about violence or dominance, it's about knowing when to use your voice and your presence to protect others." Carter returned the smile. "Well, you reminded me that there are still people worth protecting. People who do the right thing, even when it costs them." 6 months later, Paws and Claw's veterinary care had a waiting list. The publicity from the incident had brought in new clients, not just because of the drama, but because people wanted to support a veterinarian who'd stood by her principles. Nora had been able to hire a second vet to help with the increased caseload and had upgraded some of her equipment. But more importantly, she'd learned something valuable, that wealth and privilege might open doors, but character and integrity were what mattered when those doors closed behind you. That respect couldn't be demanded or bought, only earned through how you treated others, especially those with less power than yourself, and that sometimes the most powerful interventions came not from violence or aggression, but from calm authority grounded in genuine conviction. As for Scarlett Hastings, Nora heard through the grapevine that she'd enrolled in college in Colorado, studying social work. Whether she'd truly changed or was just reinventing her image, Nora didn't know. But she hoped, for Scarlett's sake and for everyone who might cross her path, that the lesson had stuck, because in the end, that's what mattered. Not the money, not the connections, not the designer clothes or family name. What mattered was how you treated the vulnerable, how you handled power, and whether you could recognize, before it was too late, that cruelty always has consequences, even if they're delayed. Especially when someone with nothing to gain and everything to lose decides that enough is enough and takes a stand.